All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and again launch screen share mode so that we can go through our agenda, which helps us to stay linear. Okay, so again, this is meant to be interactive. It's only going to be as, I guess, as edifying as we all make it, to the extent that you put in, your 2 cents and lend your valuable input. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first item on the agenda, which I'm allowing you guys to share any success stories. And I call this section of the agenda, Raise Your Glass. So now, although we had been encouraging you all to follow the plan to implement reflection template for your, the submission of the reflections that you've been doing on a weekly basis, I wonder if any of you out there have actually been ambitious enough as to actually put some of the practices that you have so far learned into action. Or probably you'll find this to be the case as well. Maybe there are practices that ACUE has elaborated on or has expanded upon in one of these first 3 modules that you've so far completed, that you had that kind of aha moment. You're like, you know what, I've been doing that for years and I never knew that it was called, whatever the formal pedagogical name ACUE has given that thing, whatever that thing is that you've been doing for years. So is there anybody who's willing to share, give themselves a pat on the back, or anything that either they put into practice that they have learned as a result of being a part of the ACUE training, or something that they've already been doing that was ratified as a result of their participation in the ACUE course?
This is Randy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good, thanks. I guess in the last, it was in the LE3, lesson 3, right? They were talking about practice, give practice tests to help guide your students toward being ready to take, their tests and be good test takers. I went through the quality matters there at TCC, and that is one of the things that we've loaded into our courses, into Canvas. So it's already there for all students. When they log in, they're following the modules and going through, and right before a test, we have practice tests, we have practice quizzes, and then we go into the test mode. So I thought that was interesting that they had that there and we were already doing it. Just need to, use it a little bit more and get some data out of how is it working to get it to work better.
Okay. So from what I heard you just share, Randy, it's some of the things that you learned through another one of our fabulous training programs, the Quality Matters. And to me, that sounded like an direct shout out to our instructional design team. And I understand that there are 2 of them at least on the line with us tonight. That's Judith and Kim. So he's giving you guys he's giving your department some props, because one of the ACUE practices actually dovetails or reflects something that is noted in the Quality Matters rubric, which is something that you all are very big on. So that's gotta feel good.
It does.
See, they're not all, everybody's not very, all as woeful as I am when it comes to, picking stuff up.
Well, they're connecting the dots now, right?
Right. I'll never forget when we first did these synchronous sessions back with the fall cohort, the first cohort that went through this program. I believe it was, Amy Bentley in the BIT division who said, after having gone through this course, it made her further appreciate just what a special group of colleagues she works with. She says, you know what, we're already doing 90% of this stuff, which makes us rock stars, right? So maybe ACUE ought to be coming to us and telling us how we do what we do versus the other way around. That's great. I want to go over to the chat. Does anybody have anything else that they want to share? Thanks, Randy. Does anyone have anything else that they want to share before I entertain the comments that came through in the chat? Okay, well, let's take a look at these chat comments here. I've got one from Joanne Gambles. She said, I learned more about using course analytics to monitor students and help them succeed. Do you care to elaborate on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, after I typed it, I realized that wasn't a success story. That was something that I that I learned, but
Okay.
I've never really looked at, you know, how the course analytics tell you like when a student has logged on and you know, how much time they may have spent and whatnot. I never really used that portion or section of Canvas, but remember one of our modules that we went through talked about that. And so I kind of, after I looked at the, you know, the expert insights and we went through that module, I went to a past class and I just clicked around and looked at some different students to see, oh, wow, you know, all the different things that I could use. And so I kind of used that information to start developing how I can use that to help students and create early alerts for them if they need assistance and whatnot.
So I wonder, did you notice any correlations or patterns that correlated with student success vis-a-vis what the course analytics provided you in terms of showing how long they interacted with your course page and some of that other data that those course analytics provides you with?
Well, I've only looked at one class so far, and the class I looked at was one of my summer classes, and the whole class really did kind of well. So I'm going to look at like a fall and a spring class just to kind of compare it to see what the difference is. Because like the summer is, well, you know, the summer program that I work with, so they have a lot more, I guess you could say, assistance and hand holding than students might get otherwise during the fall and the spring. So I'm going to go back and just pick like a random fall and spring class and go around to different students and see, you know, how that, like you said, how it correlates in terms of their success and how much time they spent.
You know, and I think that it may be a valuable thing to do because it might inform, you know, the same levels of support. Now, it may not be realistic to provide the same level of support to the fall and spring students that, you know, you do maybe your Rise Academy students in the summer, but at the same time, it probably will inform decisions to offer more support than what is currently offered, or maybe, you know, more targeted forms of support if the data bears out, you know, that would be a useful thing to do. So it sounds like a research project in the making to me.
Well, yeah, like because when I did my reflection, my plan to implement for the future, what I decided to do is to kind of set a specific time aside during my office time to just look at the analytics from whatever my current classes are at that time, so I can see what might be going on and how I can use that information.
Okay, perfect. Well, I thank you for sharing. Does anyone have any comments or questions that they would like to direct to Joanne for the comments that she just made? Actually, Kelly Herm in the comments section, Joanne says that she signed up for TCC's online training this coming Thursday. So Kim and Judith, you guys are getting, again, some recognition and acknowledgement there. And I suppose, Kelly, when you said me too, you were referring to course analytics?
Yes, I was.
Okay, all right.
That's something I learned about. I was reading through some of the discussion posts earlier today, and that's when I saw Kim's comments in her discussion post and learned about the upcoming trainings.
Okay, all right. And the trainings really are very, I don't think I've gone to a training at TCC online yet that I didn't find some use for. So Judith, thanks you for those kind words all there. And Joanne actually does share a success story. I'm just making my way through comments here, and I'm kind of going in the order that they were submitted. She said that her web-based syllabus has provided a great deal of information about services on campus and locally, which allowed me to do a web-based scavenger hunt activity for class. So do you care to share what the student response was to this scavenger hunt that Darren is saying in the comments to you? Sounds like a great idea. I'm presuming you saw the scavenger hunt.
They like it better than going around campus, because what I used to do pre-COVID, when we were able to do have them go around campus, or when I was able to have them go around campus, is I broke them up into groups and gave each group a sheet with some clues on it, and they would go around literally go around campus to get signatures for whichever group, whichever department. And I don't know if Kelly, because the library would be one, areas and student services. So they definitely like it better than going around campus and doing it. Plus, they like the hyperlinks, because I put a lot of, since it's a web-based syllabus, I'm able to put a lot of different hyperlinks to different things that the students can link directly to, rather than trying to go and search for something. All they have to do is click on the hyperlink and it'll go straight to what they're looking for. So that was nice. It took a while to put together, and now I'm updating it. So it's taking me another while, because I'm moving it from Google Slides to a Wix format. But it's a labor of love, but the students like it.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, you turned your syllabus into like a Wix website page?
Well, it's on Google Slides right now, is what I did do at first, but I am transferring it to a Wix website page.
Wow, so I would love to see the link to that. Is that something you can share in the chat with us, the link to that, or is it still under construction?
It's under construction right now.
Okay.
But I will share it when it's done. I'm trying to get it done by time June classes start. Well, the next set of classes starts on the 22nd. So I can definitely share it when I'm done.
Okay, would that be something, so that sounds like something you'd be able to share with us on the meeting that we're having on the 29th?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to see that. So Catherine, I see your question here that you asked about Canvas analytics, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to put that under the phone a friend section, because I think that that's a really good question that you're asking, and now we have everybody up in suspense, like what she asked. But I'm going to go ahead and table that question for now, and we'll come back and address that in the phone a friend section. Moving right along, next comment I see is from Cynthia Oliver. She said that this has made me pause. Let's see, is the importance of reviewing quizzes that are automatically graded to compare questions to ensure there are no bad questions. So the practices that you've most benefited from in ACUE, it's given you the thought that, hey, I need to, even if they're automatically graded quizzes in Canvas, which we all love as instructors, you might still need to go in and do a manual review just to catch discrepancies. Is that what your comment?
Absolutely, because it's one less thing to do because it automatically grades, and I'm assuming that's why they have that feature there in Canvas. But I never even thought that I need to go back and check and I'm very cognizant of the fact of looking at my questions prior to posting them when I take them from Test Bank, because I want them to parallel with what I have focused on in the class. So I'm real cognizant of that. but I never thought to go back and see what questions that might have been difficult for all the students, because you want to give students the best opportunity to do well in the class. And if you're not going back and looking at your questions after students have taken it, and those who didn't do as well, then you don't know why they didn't do well. You just assume that they didn't study. You just assume that they don't study. But if you got bad questions in there and everybody got that question wrong,
Right.
then you're going to throw that question out so that student can have a better chance of being successful. So that's what caught my attention with with the last one.
Right. I think that's a really
we can get lazy when stuff is automatically graded.
Sure. I prefer to
do already.
Yeah, we move in the name of efficiency. I kind of like that word better than we're being lazy.
Okay. Well, it just goes to show we have so much to do. It's almost like it's a never-ending thing when you're constantly grading papers.
Absolutely.
So when you use the automated system to grade them, then you assuming that all is well. At least I was. I can only speak for me. So.
Right.
When I saw that as part of the practice, I was like, well, really? Could that actually be part of why some of the students don't do as well? So I just had an aha moment to know that that's important, and especially if it's as easy as printing out a report to look at the questions with everybody's answers, because this was my first time teaching online. I didn't know that Canvas had that capability, because I'm just learning it from the teacher's perspective, So I just think it's important that I'm cognizant of that fact that when students don't do well, to pull those questions in order that I can try to help the students as best as I can.
Right. And you know what? That actually saves you work on the back end too, because if there are questions, and I know this from personal experience, if there's a bad question, a poorly worded question, or a question that, because of how the answers are worded, sometimes I'm particularly talking about like multiple choice items, you'll be the one getting those emails, right? You're going to be fielding emails all the live long day about this same one question, or you're going to have to end up throwing the question out or adjusting grades. So absolutely, I think it's beneficial that, that to me falls under the heading of being proactive rather than reactive. So the more proactive you are in any aspect of teaching, whether it's, the information you provide up front in the syllabus, the clarity of your test items, all of that, the more proactive you are, the less reactive you have to be, because in being reactive, you're actually expending more time.
Absolutely. And I had a lot of phone calls last term. I had one young lady in particular. She was letting me know that I don't understand the questions, blah, 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 blah. And because I took them from a test bank, it just never dawned on me to go and look at the questions. It just didn't.
Right. And Judith, to your point, Cynthia made a comment that said, just because you are a publisher doesn't mean you can write a decent test question.
Absolutely.
So does anyone else have any success stories? Because I think it's interesting, sort of this back and forth that's going on in the chat to Catherine's question. So I want to air it in case people aren't, most people don't pay attention to the chat when they're on these Zooms. And it's a question that others may have. Anyone else want to share a success story, raise a glass before we move on to phone a friend? Okay, so the question that Catherine asked that I said we would table had to do with analytics, since that seems to be the hot topic tonight. And she wanted to know, had anyone figured out how to see specific pages viewed versus total page views? So specific pages versus total. And Joseph went on to answer Catherine's question. All of this is in the chat, by the way. He said this is called the access report under the student, I believe. So apparently you can click on the name of the student in Canvas, or there's like a drop-down menu with the sometimes with the little dots, and it'll provide you with the drop-down menu. Is that what you mean, Joseph? Like clicking on the actual student's name in the Canvas roster?
Yeah, if you go under people in Canvas, can you hear me?
Yes.
First? Okay. If you go under people in Canvas, when you see all the students' names, when you click their name, a second window will pop up, which is generally where you find all of the analytics. So click the analytics tab there. And if you click their name a second time, which I've not found an easier way to access this access report, but if you click their name a second time at the top where it's blue, you'll then have a second table on the right-hand side that says more about this user. And under more about this user is their access report. And it tells you how long they've visited a page, how long it's been since they visited a page, how many times they have visited that page. So I use it a lot when I've got group projects and I want to determine if a certain student is not contributing on the same level of the other students. I don't just want to trust the student right off the bat. So I go into the access report, I see if they have actually been reading the documents, how frequently, if they've participated in certain things, it shows up there as well. And it's all just one linear table in terms of time. So it's very nice to kind of gauge how much time a student is actually spending on your Canvas page.
So first of all, Joseph, thank you very much for being that, just collaborative minded and community minded and sharing what you've done and how you've done it. I think the group project, the use of it with group projects, I feel like that's ingenious. That's really ingenious, by the way.
It took effort.
Wow. I mean, and again, a lot of these things, it does take effort being proactive, right? But I find the alternative, once again, we're talking about being proactive versus being reactive. The alternative, of course, to being proactive is reactive. And again, you're either putting in the effort on the front end to avoid reactive situations like grade disputes, or there's some kind of discrepancy over here, and then it's your word against the student. Now they have you in the dean's office complaining about you. I mean, who has time for all of that?
This can avoid that very easily. You've got all the data right there that shows how long they've been on every page.
I tell this to my students, documentation beats conversation every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Yep. So just the more objective data you have at your disposal, it's all the better for you, frankly, in the long run. And as you were talking about how you use analytics in group projects, I wonder, before I share my thought, on how else you might use this information, does anyone have the same thought that I may be having about in what other setting or in what other instance may use of a course analytic report be beneficial when you are interfacing with the student? I want to see if anybody else has the same thought I have. Okay, so am I the only professor who gets the sob stories at the end of the semester about how they need a certain grade to get into FSU and you're ruining my life and
no,
yada, yada,
I get that all. I've heard that before, all the time.
That sounds like a scripted email.
Correct. My grandma died for the 4th time. I only got 2 grandmas, but they died 4 times already. So, so placed within that context, can you all see how analytics can really inform how a conversation like that with a student may go? So you make the data the bad guy, right? And we're not out to be bad guys. Please understand what I'm saying. And especially in the last 12 months, with the ongoing issues brought on by the pandemic, I have been, and I think we all have been, very merciful and graceful and kind. But, facts are facts. As the world is getting quote unquote back to more normal, some of those extenuated, what's the word I want, concessions that we were extending, we're going to have to rein some of this back in because out of fairness to the student, to better prepare them for what lies ahead, we have a responsibility as educators to kind of help them be more responsible for their own learning as well, and to teach those skills. So I can definitely see how analytics can help. Well, I noticed that you were only, when it came to interacting with the course content, you only spent X number of minutes or X number of hits versus, the average A student might put in, X number of minutes, and you're putting in this. So do you see how that would be a problem? And, you kind of get them to use the data to help them, make more informed decisions about how they need to approach your course. Cynthia, I saw you wanted to say something.
Yeah, well, I'm not real familiar with Canvas yet with regards to everything that's available there, but because I had an issue with a particular young lady in the course last term, I started just leaving the recorder on even when class was over and they wanted to meet with me, because like you said, if it ain't recorded or notated or dictated or annotated, it never happened. And so it was my word against hers. So what I did to cover me, because I'm not that familiar with reporting and all of analytics and all that with Canvas, I just started leaving the recorder on even after class when I met with students, because of that incident that happened at the beginning of the term. And so that was my saving grace. So if there's any analytical things that I can go to, it definitely in the future, it will be my go-to, because I just believe in, like you said, covering myself. So I'm not the bad guy, if you will.
Right.
So it just makes sense. It just makes sense to use those tools in order that we can cover ourselves, because it is our word against theirs.
And it not only protects you, but it also, in a lot of ways, it protects the students too. If there are objective measures, there's no getting out of how much effort they've put in versus how little effort they've put in. I mean, the data is right there. So I love data. If I weren't so afraid of math, I probably would be something in the data realm, stats or something, but I'm too afraid of math. If you put something in front of me now, I would start to cry. So
Workday also have a component where you can use it for data, and the team that they have for early when you're fearing that a student is not participating,
early interventions.
I'm sorry?
Is it the early interventions?
Yes, when you get that team involved, between you and the team member going back and forth and them attempting to contact, students can't say never contacted them, because every time the team member tries to reach them, it backs you up with regards to what you have done by sending them the report that the student is not performing or showing up, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So that's another tool that we can use to help us with this analytical stuff.
And Zoom provides analytics as well. There are some things now with regards to Zoom analytics, it's not as concrete as, because the analytics will show you how long they've logged on, but it doesn't necessarily measure engagement. So for all they could, the Zoom report might say that their account was online for however long it was online, but how much of that time, especially if their camera's off, how much of that time were they actively engaged? And so that's why you have to do things like polls and surveys and, mix in some interactive elements. So this is going to lead us to, so I want to first of all thank Catherine for the question, Joseph for the response. Hopefully others of you found it helpful, that exchange beneficial, and something that you could take away for your own purposes. So this is going to lead me to asking if there are others of you that are facing challenges or would like to get advice on something that we so far haven't mentioned, or something that you've come across in any of the content you've completed so far that maybe you had a question about? Okay. You guys are a quiet bunch, either that or it's 6:30 and y'all ready to eat.
I do have a question, actually.
Go ahead, Judith.
Okay, this is, I loved hearing about the mindset, growth mindset. Here's my question. How long, if you have a student who doesn't have a growth mindset, has a static mindset or something, okay, how long would you expect it to take to turn your mindset around? I mean, I don't think it'd be something like, okay, well, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and change my mindset.
Right.
So it takes what, a month to make a strong habit? How long do we expect students to, how long do we expect it to be able to be changed?
That's a good question. Does anyone have any insight for Judith? Any thoughts on that question of how long can you expect to see before you start to see a change in mindset with students?
And I'm not saying that students not working. I'm sure they are working on it. It's just, change sometimes takes time.
I think it depends on this. It could depend on the student, because I mean, there is research and standard numbers in terms of the number of days or how long it takes to develop or build a habit. But it's like somebody said, it's what are the students' intentions? Are they really, I mean, are they being genuine? Are they being consistent? Do they really want to change their mindset? Are they doing it just so they can get out of the class? It could be dependent on any number of factors.
Very true.
Yeah, you can never put a timetable from a psychology perspective. You can never put a timetable on someone's mind shifting, because that person has to be intentional about change. And that could be from now until whenever until is, because if he or she is not showing up with intentionality to engage in the course, he may or may not have that shift for the whole class.
Mm-hmm.
Rex, if you don't mind, just because I want, as many of you to kind of, have a space to share and be involved as possible. Do you mind me asking how long have you been at TCC? I think you and I came in around the same time. I mean, I could be mistaken in that, but you're on mute.
I was muted. Yeah, I realized as soon as I started as an adjunct in 2000, and so, but I've been full-time faculty now for about 11 years, I think.
Okay. And I've been at TCC since 2006, but adjuncted for the first time in 2002. So I thought we were right along in that same sort of time frame. I thought Judith posed an interesting question about how long does it, can you expect to see changes in mindsets in students? And I guess to the extent that you would measure, a change in mindset, how do you even measure that? How do you even know? I guess, it would become evident by what they do, their habits, their practices. You've been at this a while, so what do you think?
How long it takes, I have no idea, but I know that that's a big part of our job, especially with math. I teach math, so they're terrified and, well, often coming in with the belief that I'm terrible at math and I cannot do it. So that's at least half the job is overcoming that and convincing them that yes, indeed, you can do this if you just put in a little bit of effort, and reinforcing the little successes and getting that good feeling of, when they do have that success. But it's an ongoing process. It's a never-ending process to convince them.
This
And
is
can I just
Randy.
say, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
can chime into Rex. I also teach math.
Mm.
And of course, I started in the Math Center in 1984. So I've been there 37 years. And yes, getting to the end of a course, you're thinking changing the mindset. The student may be failing going into the second or third test and can still turn around and make a successful turnout out of the class as far as grading. So I had a student last semester who I kept saying, you can do this. You can do this. By the end of the semester, she was above sea level and she signed up for my next class this semester. Now I noticed she was dropping off a little bit at the beginning, but I sent her a message because I was listening to the module that says, send them a message. I sent her a message and said, you did it last semester. Let's see you dance through this again this semester. So it takes a little bit more of the faculty also working with the student. Before we used to go and do an AW real quick. I dropped that off of my syllabi, said I do not do AWs. I want you to pass the course. I don't want to drop you when you could have passed the course, but I didn't give you a chance. So I think this is helping us give the student a chance.
And can I just say, both to you, Rex and Randy, I really wish, and I'm not just saying this because y'all are on the line and y'all are dear colleagues of mine, but I really wish I had math teachers like y'all when I was coming along. Not that they weren't good and not that, I'm sure they cared because they were teachers. So you have to have a caring heart on some level to teach. But I just don't remember being encouraged, that profoundly, that consistently. It was kind of a thing of, well, you just need to work harder, or, and some of y'all know, I'm a member of Gen X. I tell my kids all the time, I am of the generation where if you were the last to get picked for the kickball team because you were that sorry, nobody felt sorry for you. You just had to get better. But the flip side of that, or the downside of that, is, there wasn't as much of an ethos of encouragement the way that there is now. Now, some might argue, well, maybe you can go too far on the opposite end. There's a fine line between encouragement and coddling, but I would rather err on this side of encouragement than to not provide the support, because who knows where people, might end up. And Joseph, in your comments, you mentioned you had the same response about mathematics teaching physics. The students seem afraid and need help with confidence. I think confidence can help with success. So he was amening what you were saying, Randy. And Joseph, just on a personal note, I know for a fact that I missed out on a $20,000 college scholarship because of my fear of physics, which I refused to take my senior year of high school because, in my words, and I quote, I didn't want to work that hard my senior year of high school.
Fear is the biggest thing. I mean, it sets students back. They don't want to try because they're afraid that they're not going to get it. But if you sit down for a little while, talk with them about it and help them understand maybe the way they think about the problem really makes a big difference. So giving them that confidence, and both Rex and Randy were right on target with that. That was very nice.
And I wish you were my physics teacher, because I probably could have captured that $20,000 scholarship and been an astronaut right now, because that is what I wanted to do. I mean, I know that's everybody's childhood dream, but no, I was like really serious about it. I went to space camp and everything, but woo, I ran into that physics in 12th grade. I'm just like, oh no.
Allow me to piggyback, if you will, on what who was it? Was it Rex? With regards to being just patient with students. I remember I was waiting to get in a master's program, and I was just taking courses while I was waiting to get in a program. And I had already gotten past. I think I was working on my bachelor's. I don't know, but anyway, I was waiting to get in some program. But I went to Broward College and I was taking these math courses, and I was just absolutely doing horrible. No matter what I did, I just could not get past that math. I could not get past that algebra 2. And I'm sitting in the cafeteria one day, and I'm just boohoo crying. I'm just because I don't even know what else to do. And this lady passed by me and she asked me what was wrong. And I'm just like, I'm falling apart at this point. And she takes me upstairs and I tell her what's wrong. She takes me to a tutor. And the very first thing he said to me, you got to change your mindset. And I'm telling you, it was those words that when I chose to change my mindset and stop telling myself I can't do it, I started teaching my peers how to do the math because I simply changed my mindset.
Wow.
And I was able to, it was just amazing. It was like somebody turned on a switch just by telling me that.
And I think more of those anecdotes that we share with our students, it'll encourage them to do likewise, because I see here in the comments, let me scroll back up here. Stephanie said that she gets the same sentiment in composition with students coming in saying how they're bad in writing. And, you know, they're only repeating what they've been told.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, let's just face it. Joanne said that generational differences can sometimes have an impact in the class dynamic and the attitudes they have when they approach things. I definitely have more thoughts to share on that. I think that would be getting us going down a rabbit hole a little bit though, but you're absolutely right. And, you know, especially at our level, because, you know, we do see a wide gamut of students ranging from the recently just graduated high school or even dual enrollment. So they're still in high school, which makes them members of Gen Z, all the way to those baby boomers who are now in their 60s and 70s who, you know, now they say it's my turn. You know, I put my kids or even my grandkids through school. Now it's my turn to do, you know, to do it for myself. And so, yeah, you see those generational differences, and sometimes it manifests quite differently. Darren shared some very valuable information about there being great videos on YouTube with regards to the growth mindset. Carol Dweck, you can find plenty of helpful, insightful videos. Those can be great resources for us. And Darren, you're getting thanked for that. I see you've acknowledged it. Catherine Meyer says to you, Judith, that while she doesn't have a timeline for growth mindset, having students do reflection activities after challenging assignments helps to foster a growth mindset. I think that's a really cool idea. Catherine, is that something you've done before?
Yeah, definitely. The first assignment we do in 1102, English 1102, which is rhetoric, argument, and persuasion, is a rhetorical analysis assignment, which is, you know, very high metacognition, meta-analysis level. So it's a super challenging assignment for students. They've never seen it before. Of course, I'm like, you know, tell them, I got you, I got this, we've got the scaffolding, don't worry, I've been doing this. So I just tell them, trust me, walk them through the process. But then afterwards, we do a reflection activity, and that gives them the opportunity, right? And I have like 2 questions in it, sort of like, you know, what you learned, what you found challenging, what, you know, what you struggled with, so forth. But then also, you know, compare how you feel about this now to where you were at the beginning of the assignment and reflect on that. And this is just one example of using that, but this is a really challenging assignment. The students are always like, oh my God, I was so afraid. I thought I couldn't do it. But now I understand so much more and I really got it and I'm proud of myself. So it does that, just that reflection piece. And of course, I just give them points for it. I don't grade it. Great opportunity for them to make that connection. Like, oh, wow, I did learn. I grew, right? I did something I didn't know I could do. And, you know, you don't have to do that for every assignment, but there's a few key assignments where I use that and I find it really helpful.
I've got an assignment coming up where that'd be perfect.
I'm thankful that you shared that. That sounds like a really useful practice. Kelly was chiming in the chat as we were having that exchange, Joseph, about physics. And she says, you know, she's expressing regret over having not taken it in high school. She said the reason why she didn't take it was because she'd already had 3 sciences. But then a little bit later in the chat, she said that she had a math, see, I guess this is the kind of math teacher I had too. She said she had a math teacher in high school who would laugh, or rather play a laugh track in class if students had a wrong answer. Like, seriously? That is unbelievably cruel. At least I heard he did this with other classes after I had him as an instructor. That's horrible. Joanne said that I make sure to tell my students about my statistics expert. He took the class 3 times.
It's supposed to be experienced. Autocorrect.
Oh, okay.
I took the class
about
3
my
times.
statistics experience. Gotcha. I took the class 3 times, and what got me through it was that I found a reason to want to go. When I realized that I could learn how to manipulate numbers with the right formula, I got excited. So you have to find your own way and your own reason or motivation for everything. Everyone is DIY. I mean,
different. It corrected it. I don't know what I'm typing on my phone.
Got it. Catherine said she had a lot of bad math teachers too. So we're just beating up on math teachers. You're either good at it or you're not, right? And I'm married to a
And then
math
again,
teacher.
that can go with the instructors too. They're either good or they're not. Because I took physics twice, and the first instructor, I just could not get it. The second one, it was so easy. Again, I was teaching my peers how to break these numbers down and do what it is that it needed to do. So it's all in the instructor too now that we can't get past something. If you are not patient with students and you are humiliating them, you're gonna shut them down. Period.
And that is why I am grateful to work with the colleagues I have that are represented here tonight, because you're all in this training because obviously you want to improve your craft. You are probably the kind of instructor that we maybe all kind of wish we had at various junctures of our educational experiences. I want to go ahead and move into the third item on the agenda. This one shouldn't take us that long at all. I had here completing and submitting reflections more efficiently. Now, we are going into the middle of week 4. And so hopefully by now, everyone has received the template. I've sent it out several times. I realized that in the beginning, I may have sent you the wrong template. And a couple of you may have submitted reflections on, that you were planning to implement, but the template you used was for if you were already doing it or had done it. So I apologize for that mistake early on in the beginning. I believe that I have sent the correct template for plan to implement. If you are using the plan to implement reflections guide as your submission standard, you're just sort of, doing the editable thing on the Word document, you should be coming back with reflections from the graders that are saying that you've completed the module. So is anyone running into any problems with, modules that reflections that they've had to resubmit? And you don't have to, tell us the nature of the resubmission. I just want to make sure it's not because of like use of the wrong template or anything like that. Anybody having those kind of issues? Okay, is the template helpful? Is it saving you all time? Because that was the intention.
I think so.
Okay, all right. Couple quick comments that have come through here from Stephanie. I had a positive experience with math because early on, 2nd grade, we got a piece of candy for each of the daily math problems we got right. Wow, candy is some powerful stuff, girl. If you took it with you from the 2nd grade on, that's awesome. Catherine said her husband's a math teacher, and he notes that disciplines like English better align with verbal skills than math does, which may account for math teachers who are good at math but bad at communicating, which makes them bad teachers. Makes sense.
Well, it makes the experience, you look at Rate My Professor, and the struggle is for good math instructors. Like the English department, you got your pick, but in the math department, it seems like students always say, you know, I can't find a math teacher who I can connect with.
And again, not saying this because I'm married to him and I think he's wonderful, of course, anyway, but I too am married to a math teacher. And he is now at his third school in 15 years. It's like he's been in each district an average of 5 years. He's currently at Godby now. But everywhere he's gone, and it's usually been because he's been courted by the next system, which offers him more money. But everywhere he's gone, every time he leaves, they're like, really? You're leaving? Because he has this way of putting students at ease. And he tells them, he said, you know what? I struggled in math. So I understand what that's like. And I think they just appreciate that honest, you know, that refreshing honesty. So at any rate, the last thing on our agenda was just for us to just sort of have sort of a wrap-up discussion, anything that anybody wanted to share, ask a question about, make a comment on that hasn't been so far said. And I'd love to hear from people who haven't, you know, said anything yet. Amber, you good? Arthur, how's it going? You good? Okay. Stephanie, how about you? Things going okay?
Yeah, everything's fine, thanks.
Okay, all right. What about you, Katie?
Things going great, thank you. I've really
Okay.
appreciated the discussion. It's been really helpful.
Okay, great.
Great tips.
Great. How about you, Nick? You're not, now you're kind of in a different space. You're not an instructor, but are you glad, you know, ultimately that you're taking this course? Are you finding it useful for what you do here at the college?
Yeah, definitely. And I teach as well. So I teach English and the honor seminar courses. So yeah, this is a great experience.
Okay, great. Okay, and Sade, we hadn't heard anything from you. So you
I am taking it, and I'm taking it all in. Everything is going well. Definitely enjoying the course. Thanks for asking.
Okay, great. Kim, I think you may have made a comment tangentially, but you know, everything going okay with the class?
Yeah, everything's going great. I think this is really a good investment in ourselves. And like I believe someone mentioned earlier, you know, we've been doing some great things already, but really didn't realize we were doing some great things. So that's
absolutely
affirming, reassuring, and I'm really enjoying it. I really am. We're definitely going to steal some ideas as we continue to do training and integrate the pedagogy with the technology and the online teaching and everything. So we'll be stealing some of the ideas, so you'll see some.
Oh, great. And Shakita, you actually put a comment in the chat. I didn't acknowledge it earlier, but I do remember you in the chat saying that over in transitional studies, you guys have a robust offering of different resources. So are you finding that they're more or less compatible with what you're learning here with ACUE? It's more or less reflective of some of the same things that you're learning through ACUE?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, great. Essie, I see that you kind of dropped in and you dropped out for whatever reason, but we're glad that you're here. Your attendance has been noted. So if you were having some challenges with technology, as we all have been wont to do on occasion during this past year or so, then you know we certainly understand that. Cynthia, you're off mute. Does that mean you were poised to want to make a comment?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I didn't realize I was off.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to make sure before I round this up, because guys, I promised you an hour or less, and it's 6:56. I want to be a woman of my word. So unless anybody has anything additional, that's it for this session. We will meet again on the 29th. The next reflections, of course, are due on this coming Sunday, the 13th. Have a wonderful rest of your week, rest of your evening, and I'll see you back here on the 29th. Thanks for coming tonight.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.